So like we've talked about before, CBD does not cause a failed drug test. CBD with THC in it causes a failed drug test because the metabolites of THC cause a failed drug test. And any CBD that has THC in it is called full spectrum CBD. So what is broad spectrum CBD? We're going to talk about that today and answer some of the questions about what it is exactly, how we make it, and what are the benefits of broad spectrum versus full spectrum. Once again, I'm John. I'm the founder of Rescue One CBD. Thanks for joining. If you love what we're doing, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a podcast on Apple and Spotify and Pandora and like anything that you could want it on. It's the Rescue One Podcast. And we have a website for that too. You can go to rescueonepodcast.com and see all the players on there, of all the different podcast types. You can subscribe there. And obviously on Instagram and Facebook, we're really accessible too. So all this stuff we're always putting up there. It's great content. We get a lot of really good interaction and questions, and we start putting out stuff like this after we get people asking questions too. So, if you have anything, please reach out to us and let us know on there. It's pretty cool to interact with everybody. But let's get into it. So full spectrum CBD, to be straight to the point, will cause a failed drug test. That is the product. Full spectrum is the product that it comes from extracting all of the resin and oils and basically all the liquid out of a cannabis flower from a hemp plant. And with that comes the full spectrum of cannabinoids that would naturally be occurring in that flower, including THC. So yes, you get CBD in there, but you also get THC. Now, for those of us that take random drug tests, this is no-go, right? We can't ever have THC in our products in any amount that's detectable. It needs to be completely non-detectable on a liquid chromatography machine, which is what we do with our lab tests. It can't be anywhere on there. Otherwise, it will show up in our urine and we can fail the drug test. So broad spectrum contains more than one cannabinoid. It can contain CBD and maybe one other or two others, but it cannot contain THC. Now, these terms aren't anything that's regulated by the federal government. It's really just the industry standard. So, if you're watching this 10 years from now and things have changed, then that's just the case sometimes. But in general, the practice is broad spectrum is THC, what they call THC free, and full spectrum contains THC in it. But broad spectrum has to have more than one cannabinoid. It has to be CBD plus something else, CBN or CBG or CBC. If it's just CBD by itself, it gets considered an isolate because CBD has been isolated from all the other cannabinoids and put in this product. You can put CBD in almost anything. They put it in vape, they put it in oil, they put it in gummies, in food and beverage. And what CBD product you're taking is how the thing gets its name. So CBD oil is just CBD that's been put in oil. So broad spectrum CBD oil means that there's CBD and at least one other cannabinoid placed in an oil, but without THC in there. That's what we make at Rescue One CBD. So there's a couple of ways to make broad spectrum. We're going to nerd out here for a second, so bear with me. But hemp grows in a stalk with flowers out of it. All the flowers get taken and placed in in for drying. Once they're nice and dry, we take them. They get placed in a machine. Basically, think of like a centrifuge, for lack of a better term, where they can have the oils and the resins extracted out of it. So the flower is left over. It's like this dehydrated, dried out thing that gets tossed. But what's left over is this very sticky, thick resinous fluid, this oil that has all of the terpenes in there, which looks similar to turpentine, which is where it gets its name from terpenes. It has CBD, it has THC, it has all the other cannabinoids, and it's very dark. And we have to refine that to get all of the THC out, to get all of the oil, all the other oils out, to make it a fluid that has the other cannabinoids, but not THC. And all of these cannabinoids can be seen individually on a liquid chromatography machine. So as you're making the product, you can identify which ones are coming up, and you can cut off the production at whatever cannabinoid you don't want in there. So what we do is we start refining it. We see CBD pop up, we see CBG pop up, and maybe CBC or CBN or whatever the flower starts to produce on that run, and we leave those in there. But when THC pops up, that's when we'll stop it. And THC shows up later in this process, if you will. I'm kind of generalizing and making it simpler than it is, but we'll stop the process so that THC does not get placed in the product. We basically discard the rest of the oil that has THC in it, and then we start testing it to make sure that we have no THC in it down to parts per million. So it's 0.000% THC. And we tested a few times, but the first time that we're testing is during production to make sure that it's not in there. That is a broad spectrum product. So we have this distillate, we distill down that flower into a very concentrated amount where we have thousands and tens of thousands of milligrams of CBD into this very concentrated thing. And then we basically just dilute it with MCT oil. That's what's carried in your individual bottles of CBD oil. So CBD is placed in those oils, and they're individually bottled, and they're shipped out, and you can take them, in that form. It basically goes under your tongue. The other cheaper, crappier way, honestly, to make it is they do the same thing with the plants. They extract the product, and they filter out absolutely everything except CBD. It's by itself, and they'll turn it into a powder, an isolate, if you will. And then they can drop that isolate powder into an MCT oil and stir it around till it dissolves. You're only getting CBD there. You're not getting CBN or CBG or CBC or these other cannabinoids that, according to neurologists, have something called an entourage effect, and they make each other more effective. So broad spectrum is a better product than isolate when you're talking about inflammation, better sleep, and your mood. Where it's inferior, honestly, it's inferior to full spectrum is with pain relief. Pain relief for inflammation, CBD works great on, because CBD is an anti-inflammatory. But pain that's not from inflammation, is better affected with THC, because THC is an actual painkiller. It works on the nerves to stop the perception of pain into your brain. If you're swelling and you take CBD, you'll have a reduced amount, and obviously you get some pain relief in that way. So keep that in mind. But it's one of those things where we can't take it if you're taking random drug tests. That's just the world we live in, unfortunately, until those things change or technology changes or what have you. That's the summary of it, is how it's made, what it does, why people take full spectrum versus broad spectrum, and the way we make it in a superior way than just making it with an isolate. Now, another reason people would take broad spectrum, which has no THC, versus full spectrum, is there are a lot of people out there that are very, very sensitive to THC. We have customers that reach out to us that take our products, not because they get randomly drug tested, but because they're so sensitive to even small amounts of THC that they don't want any in there whatsoever. And we obviously go to great lengths to make sure that we're testing down to 0 parts per million. So because of that, we're their go-to product. But for the most part, people would take full spectrum if they're just not worried about a drug test. So that's the gist of it. If you guys have any other questions or want to ask anything directly to us in private, you can always email us, support@rescue1cbd.com. You can reach out on Instagram or Facebook. We're pretty responsive on there. We get right back to you, so you can reach out there. You should follow us on those platforms, because we are always putting out information and content, and getting really good feedback and interacting with people where we can answer these kinds of questions one-on-one, or give us ideas to make content like this. So follow us on there, and check out our website, rescue1cbd.com. We also, like we said in the beginning, have the YouTube and the podcast channel. So you can dig in as deep as you want. There's like tons of other stuff that we go into with the benefits of CBD and the fire service. So that's it. If you have anything else, please reach out. Take care of each other and be safe out there.